No vacancy, 2 keys. The receipt wasn't for a room. That was the first thing that bothered me. Mile 19 Motel, it said, in block letters that looked printed by a machine that remembers the 70s. Under it, key deposit $20. No room number, no rate, no taxes, just the words no vacancy stamped in red, and an itemized charge for permission to carry a brass fob that didn't belong to me. The receipt lived in the pocket of my wife's raincoat. I found it because the weather had turned and Nora hates umbrellas. The paper had a coffee ring and a ghost of perfume that isn't ours. On the back, someone had written a phone number with a smiley face that looked like it regretted something. I stood in our kitchen holding the rectangle of implication and tried to think like a kind person. The motel could be a client. The key could be for a shoot. The number could be for a vendor who doesn't understand email. All those coulds dressed up as maybes and walked around my head. None fit. The motel sat under a sign that flickered as if it cost extra to be consistent. No vacancy glowed in red letters that had lost their patience. The office door was propped open by a ceramic dog with a chip in one ear. A bell on a spring announced me like an accusation. "I'm not here for a room," I said, and felt how dramatic that sounded even before his eyebrows rose. "I'm here about a key." I slid the receipt onto the counter like a beginner magician. It was charged to my wife. Yes, it seemed stupid to lie in a motel office while a ceramic dog watched me. He reached under the counter and set a brass key on the laminate between us. The fob was stamped 12 Garage. The brass was worn in the way metal gets worn only if fingers have asked it to explain itself for years. "This is yours," he said, "or hers, or both, however you're organized." "Storage," he said. "We rent it when folks need a place that isn't a place. Bands stash gear. Contractors stash tools. People stash secrets until they decide they're not." He shrugged. $20 says it's temporary." "Does my wife have a band?" I asked, and we both smiled because sometimes you need to acknowledge the part of the world that still makes jokes. He slid the key closer. "Look," he said, quieter, "we don't rent rooms by the hour. The garage is not for what you're thinking." He gestured at the rain like it was his witness. "It has a lock, a light, and a clean floor, that's all." I took the key and felt the weight of an object that had been used correctly and incorrectly by 100 people, and decided to be neutral for me. "Can I see it?" I asked. "12's around back," he said, retrieving a flashlight from a drawer that had learned not to jam. "I'll walk you." "Do you want privacy?" he asked. "Yes," I said. I lifted the lid because I am the kind of person who thinks being gentle makes intrusion ethical. The framed photo faced down. When I turned it, it showed Nora and me 5 years earlier on a pier in December, laughing because the wind disagreed with my hat. The frame was black metal, not our frame. The notebook was the kind she buys and forgets to write in. On the cover she had written in her careful print, "Project, Wednesday." I opened it. Inside were lists, client names, budgets, timelines. But between the lists, in the slanted handwriting she uses when she's writing to herself, were small sentences like stitches. "Stop auditioning for rooms that want a costume." "Kiss Evan in the hallway for no reason." "Find a place to breathe before work takes the air." "Key, not a door, bring it back." I stopped reading because the room had started to feel like a person who forgives you for entering, then asks you to leave kindly. I was putting the lid back when I heard the metal drag of the garage next to mine. A cough. Then a voice I recognized the way you recognize a song you didn't choose, Armin's, the client with the elegant emails. And another voice, Nora's, low, then laughing the way she laughs when a joke lives in the vowel. "We can use the garage for the pop-up," Armin said. "It's off the highway, which is ugly enough to be hip if you sell it right." "Ugly is a budget tactic," Nora said. "But yes, the idea is good. We need power for the lights." "I'll bring a generator," he said, "or 3. Nora made the noise she makes when a man is proposing a solution he could have texted. "We also need permission," she said. "The motel will not want a crowd at 2 a.m. "Crowds make money," he said. "Crowds make mess," she said. "We'll do a low-volume invite list. 20 people. No influencers who confuse quiet with failure." Their voices moved. The metal door rolled down and the world returned to rain. I stood alone with the banker's box and the key in my pocket, and the feeling that I had just watched a play in which my jealousy had auditioned for a role and lost to logistics. I locked the garage and went back to the office. I drove home rehearsing the worst version of us and deciding not to perform it. The wipers ticked like a metronome for honesty. In my head I wrote 2 speeches and deleted both. When I walked through our door, the house smelled like grapes and dish soap, domestic, unheroic. Nora turned from the sink and saw the weather I'd brought in with me. We did hug right away. We put the key on the counter and let the metal cool. Then we chose sentences that belonged to grown people. She said the word pop-up like it was a tool, not an alibi. I said the word jealousy like it deserved a chair, not a microphone. We agreed to write rules for rooms rather than each other, because people get defensive, but spaces can be managed if you name them correctly. The man with the paperback didn't pry. I appreciated that more than I said. At home, Nora was already back. We put the key on the counter and talked like adults who wanted to keep being married. No cross-examination, no theater. She told me the garage was for a highway pop-up tied to the Calder exhibit. She told me she'd invited Armin because he's good at logistics and bad at subtlety. She told me she'd brought a box of us so the room wouldn't talk her into forgetting. I told her I was afraid of paper more than people. We decided to be braver in the hallway than at the motel. We wrote rules on the back of the receipt and taped it to the fridge. If the room might change one of us, the other gets the invite or the map. Work that needs a password needs daylight too. No fancy codes without plain English. Our home is not rehearsal. If a script shows up, we shred it and eat grapes. Jealousy gets a chair, not a microphone. Once a week, we buy a small brave thing for $20. 2 nights later, the pop-up worked. 22 people stood under highway rain while a generator hummed like a promise. The motel man aimed a flashlight at nobody. Armin kept his distance like someone who had learned a boundary. Nora spoke twice, then found my hand in the dark as if it were lighting. Back home at 2:30, we ate toast over the sink. The key in the tray looked tired and innocent. We kissed like punctuation, not plot. In the morning, I hung a hook by the door and wrote a pencil label, "Garage Ideas Only." Beneath it, the notebook lay open to Nora's reminder, "Kiss Evan in the hallway for no reason," and I added, "Today." We kept the motel number. We kept the receipt until the tape failed and we laughed. We kept jealousy's chair and gave it a cushion. Once a week we spend less than $20 finding our way back to the room we built. Key optional, vacancy irrelevant.